They were the only American civilians executed for espionage during the Cold War. To some, the Rosenbergs were traitors. To others, they were scapegoats in a paranoid America. I'm Matt Hasquin. I'm a high school history teacher, and I'm taking you through each of the lines of Billy Joel's We Didn't Start the Fire and giving you a little bit of history on each one of the topics he mentioned. So today, we're starting the second verse, and we're going on with the Rosenbergs. So it's the early 1950s, and the United States is gripped by Cold War fear. And the Soviet Union had tested its first atomic bomb in 1949. This was far sooner than our intelligence had expected. And the question was, how did they get the bomb, so fast? And so the FBI believed that the only way possible was through espionage. Specifically, there had to be a spy ring that passed atomic secrets from the U.S. and the U.S. labs to Soviet agents, right? And so, who was in the middle of this web, this spy ring, right? Well, there was a young New York couple, Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. They were arrested in 1950, and they were charged with conspiracy to commit espionage and accused of passing secrets that helped the Soviets build their own bomb. Now, Julius was an electrical engineer who worked for the U.S. Army Signal Corps, and Ethel was a homemaker, and she was a former typist, but both had ties to the American Communist Party. This was legal at the time, but it was viewed with deep suspicion. And there had to have been a key witness against them, and there was. There was David Greenglass. He was Ethel's brother, and he worked on the Manhattan Project and admitted to passing information to the Soviets, claiming that Julius had recruited him and Ethel had typed up the notes. But here's where it gets kind of murky. David Greenglass later admitted that he lied about his sister's involvement so that he could protect his own wife. Despite all of this, Ethel and Julius were convicted in 1951. And the Rosenberg trial was one of the most high-profile and controversial of the Cold War. It was, supporters claimed that they were being punished not for spying, but for being Jewish and communist and uncooperative in a time of mass hysteria. Prosecutors argued that they helped the Soviets develop nuclear weapons that endangered millions of lives. The judge called their actions worse than murder, and President Eisenhower refused to grant clemency. And on June 19, 1953, Julius and Ethel Rosenberg were executed in the electric chair at Sing Sing prison, leaving behind 2 young sons. It was the first and only time American civilians were executed for espionage during peacetime. And so for decades, a debate has raged. Were they innocent victims of McCarthyism, or were they true Soviet spies? Well, in the 1990s, after the fall of the Soviet Union, declassified documents from both U.S. intelligence and Soviet sources confirmed that Julius Rosenberg was involved in espionage. But Ethel's role, that's still disputed. Many historians believe that she was likely aware of Julius's actions, but not directly involved in passing of secrets. Even now, her execution is seen by many as an overreach of justice, fueled by Cold War paranoia and political pressure. So why does the Rosenberg case matter? Well, the Rosenberg case it's more than just a Cold War headline. It's a story of fear and justice, loyalty, and also ideology. And this was in a time when the line between national security and civil liberties was blurred dangerously. And whether guilty or not, their trial and execution left a lasting scar, but also a cautionary tale about what happens when politics and fear override due process. So, next up in We Didn't Start the Fire, the H-bomb. And follow along to keep learning the stories behind every lyric. And that's the Rosenbergs, another one of those things that you should know by being alive. Thanks for watching.